The afternoon sun burned hot above the busy human city. The streets were full of noise, engines, and people rushing with their own lives, but under a tall building, near a shop with broken glass windows, one figure stood still. She had been there since morning. She was not human. Everyone could see it at first glance. Her skin had a pale silver glow that caught the sunlight in strange ways. Her long hair looked like flowing strands of dark crystal, and her large eyes were not brown or blue but glowing violet. Around her neck hung a board with shaking hands, a wooden sign with rough words painted in English, "Help Wanted." People walked past her all day. Some laughed, some whispered, some even threw a quick insult. A few children pointed at her, but their parents pulled them away. "Don't stare," one mother hissed. "She's dangerous," said another man under his breath. The alien woman lowered her eyes each time, but she never moved from her spot. By noon she looked tired. Her shoulders dropped, her lips were dry, and her body swayed like she might fall. Yet she did not sit, she just waited, silent. Holding her little sign, Daniel, a young human man, walked down that same street. He was carrying a bag of groceries. His work uniform was dirty, and sweat lined his forehead. He was an ordinary man, unnoticed by most. But when his eyes fell on her, something made him stop. For a moment he thought maybe she was part of some strange street show. But then he saw the truth. Her feet were bare and cut from the rough pavement. Her hands trembled. Her eyes searched each face that passed by, hoping, waiting. Daniel felt a strange chill. Why was she standing there alone? Why was no one helping? The crowd pushed around him, horns blared from the street. Yet his eyes stayed locked on the alien woman. He saw how people ignored her like she was invisible. A group of teenagers passed by, mocking her voice. One boy shouted, "Hey alien, need a job cleaning spaceships?" The others laughed. The woman lowered her head but did not answer. Daniel's heart twisted. He wanted to walk away like everyone else. He had his own problems, rent to pay, long hours, no time for strangers, especially not alien strangers. But his feet refused to move. Something about the way she stood there under the burning sun, with that desperate little sign, pulled him closer. He stepped forward slowly. She noticed him at once, her glowing violet eyes lifted. Meeting his brown ones for a moment, Daniel froze. He felt like she could see right through him. Deep into his thoughts, "Are you?" He cleared his throat. "Are you waiting for someone?" Her lips moved, the voice was soft, broken. "Waiting, yes, all day waiting, no one. No one stop." Daniel glanced at the sign again. "Help wanted?" He asked, "Or you want help?" The alien woman looked down, then whispered, "Both." A cold shiver ran through him. Something about that one word made the air feel heavier. He looked around. People were still walking past like nothing was happening, like this strange woman was just part of the street. But Daniel could not turn away now. He saw her hands shake harder, the sign slipping from her fingers without thinking. He caught the wooden board before it hit the ground. Their hands brushed. Her skin was warm, but it carried a faint vibration, like a hidden hum of energy. His eyes widened. She pulled back quickly, whispering again, "Sorry, please. Don't leave." Daniel felt his chest tighten. He didn't know why, but he believed her. He could sense something behind those words, a fear she could not hide. "Do you need food?" he asked. His voice was calm, though inside he was nervous. "Water?" Her head nodded fast, desperate. Her violet eyes filled with a faint shimmer of tears. "Yes, water, food, a place. Safe. Safe." The way she said that word made Daniel look around again. Suddenly he noticed two men at the far end of the street. Their eyes were not on the shops or people. They were fixed on her. Dark coats, strange devices on their belts. They did not look like ordinary humans. Daniel's stomach sank. He did not understand everything, but he understood enough. This alien woman was not just hungry or lost. She was being watched, hunted. The crowd noise felt distant. His groceries weighed heavy in his hand. His mind screamed to keep walking, to stay out of trouble, but his heart would not let him. The alien woman's lips parted again, her voice almost too soft to hear. "Please, take me. I will work, I will clean, I will do anything. Just don't leave me here." Her eyes shone brighter in the sunlight. Not like glass, but like living fire. And for Daniel, the world seemed to stop. One decision stood before him, a choice that could change everything. He took a deep breath, stepped closer, and whispered, "Come with me." The alien woman stared in shock. Her trembling hands held the sign tighter. Then slowly she nodded. Behind them, the two men in dark coats began walking. Their eyes sharp, their pace steady. Daniel did not see them yet. But the moment he reached for her arm, the first shadow of danger was already falling, and the sun above burned hotter, as if watching the start of something far greater than anyone on that street could understand. Daniel's heart was beating faster than it should. He didn't know why he had spoken those 3 words, "Come with me." But once they left his mouth, he could not take them back. The alien woman looked at him as if she had just been given life again. Her violet eyes widened, glowing faintly under the streetlights that flickered on as evening came. She nodded once, quick and desperate, clutching her wooden sign tight against her chest. Daniel picked up his grocery bag again and motioned for her to follow. At first her steps were shaky, almost like she feared someone would drag her back. But when she realized he truly meant to take her, she walked closer. The city street was still busy, but now Daniel felt eyes on him. Not just normal eyes, watchful, sharp. The 2 men in dark coats he had noticed earlier were no longer at the corner. He could not see them now, and that made him more uneasy. He walked faster, guiding her through side streets. He thought about what he was doing. He was just an ordinary man. He had no power, no money, and barely enough food for himself. And now he was taking a strange alien woman home with him. "Are you sure about this?" he whispered over his shoulder. "You don't even know me." Her voice was soft but clear. "You stopped? That is enough for me, enough." Something in those words pressed deep into him. He remembered how everyone else ignored her, laughed at her, spat words at her, yet she believed him just because he had stopped. When they reached his small apartment building, Daniel glanced around again. No strange men in coats, no shadowy figures. Just the usual neighbors. The alien woman stood close behind him like a shadow clinging for safety. He pushed the door open and led her inside. The air smelled faintly of old paint and dust. His apartment was not much, just 2 small rooms, a worn-out couch and a kitchen barely big enough for 1 person. "This is it," he said nervously. "Not much, but it's safe." "At least for now." The alien woman stepped in, her bare feet silent on the old wooden floor. She looked around like she was seeing a new world. Her hands touched the edge of the couch carefully, then the wall, then the lamp. She whispered something in a language Daniel could not understand. It sounded musical but broken. "Sit down," Daniel offered, pulling a chair closer. "You look like you haven't eaten all day." He hurried to the kitchen. Opening his grocery bag, he took out bread, a bottle of water, and some fruit. It was all he could give. He placed the food in front of her. The woman's hands shook as she reached for the bread. She took small bites, chewing slowly as if tasting food for the first time in years. Then she drank water in long, desperate gulps. Daniel sat across from her watching. Something about her made him both worried and curious. She was not just some lost traveler. He could see the hidden fear in her eyes, the way her body tensed every time a sound came from outside. Finally, he asked, "What's your name?" She lowered her bread slowly. "Name? Harden your tongue, call me Lyra." "Lyra," Daniel repeated. The name felt strange but gentle. "I'm Daniel." Her violet eyes lifted. "Daniel," she whispered like she was testing the sound. Then her lips curved into the smallest smile he had seen all day. For a moment the room felt lighter, but then it changed. A strange hum filled the air. It was faint, but Daniel heard it. He frowned, looking around. "What's that sound?" Lyra froze. Her hand clutched her wrist where a faint glow pulsed under her skin. She whispered in fear, "They can find me." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Who?" She shook her head quickly, her voice sharp. "Hunters. Always hunters." He wanted to ask more, but the fear in her tone told him enough. Whoever they were dangerous. And if they were hunting her, then by helping her, he had just stepped into something far bigger than himself. Daniel leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Why you? Why are they after you?" Lyra's violet eyes glimmered, sadness heavy in them. She pressed her hand over the glowing mark on her wrist. "Because of this, I am property. To them I am not free. I escaped, I ran, but they always come. Always." Daniel felt anger rise inside him. She was treated like an object, not a person. And now she was sitting here in his apartment, eating his bread, drinking his water, and asking him without words to protect her. He rubbed his face, thinking this was madness. He should take her to the authorities or just walk away. But when he looked at her trembling hands and the way her eyes begged him for hope, he knew he could not. "You can stay here tonight," Daniel said firmly. "We'll figure something out tomorrow." Lyra's whole body seemed to relax for the first time. She placed her hand gently on the table near his. Not touching but close. "Thank you," she whispered. The hum from her wrist faded slowly, leaving the room in silence again. But Daniel's mind was not silent. He could not shake the feeling that shadows were moving outside, that the hunters she spoke of were already near, and when he glanced out his small window across the dark street, he thought he saw a figure standing under the flickering lamppost, watching, waiting. The risk had already begun. The invitation was given, and Daniel knew his life would never be the same again. The city outside was quiet, but Daniel could not sleep. He lay on his old couch, staring at the ceiling, his thoughts tangled. Just hours ago he had been a normal man, tired from work, carrying groceries. Now an alien woman with violet eyes was sleeping in the other room. The clock ticked past midnight. The hum of the fridge filled the silence. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, but then he heard it. A sound so soft he almost thought he imagined it. A muffled sob. He sat up slowly, his chest tightened. He listened again. Another soft cry, coming from the small bedroom where Lyra rested. Daniel stood and walked carefully. The floor creaked under his steps. He reached the doorway. The door was open a little. He pushed it gently and peered inside. Lyra sat curled on the edge of the bed, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her silver skin shimmered faintly under the weak light of the lamp. Her violet eyes glowed wet with tears. She was whispering in her own alien tongue, words broken by sobs. Daniel's throat went dry. He should leave her alone. This was not his world, not his problem. But his feet carried him forward. He knocked softly on the doorframe. "Lyra?" She gasped and wiped her face quickly, trying to hide her tears. Her voice trembled. "I am sorry, I did not want to wake you." Daniel stepped inside, keeping his voice gentle. "You didn't, I just heard you." He sat down on the chair by the bed. "What's wrong?" Her eyes lowered. Her fingers gripped her wrist again where that faint glow pulsed under her skin. "I cannot go back," she whispered. "If they find me, I am finished." "Who are they?" Daniel asked quietly. Lyra shook her head. "Hunters, they serve the masters who own me. To them I am not Lyra. I am just property." Her voice cracked on the last word. Daniel clenched his fists. He hated the way she said it. Like she had no worth, no name, just a thing. "You're not property," he said firmly. "Not here. Not with me." She looked up at him then, eyes wide, as if no one had ever spoken those words to her before. Her lips parted, trembling. "Why did you stop for me?" "All day I stood. All day no one came, only you." Daniel hesitated. He didn't have a grand reason. He didn't even understand himself fully. "I don't know," he admitted. "I just couldn't walk away." For a moment silence filled the room. Only the faint hum of her wrist mark echoed in the air. Then Lyra lifted her sleeve, revealing the glowing mark fully. It was burned into her skin, not like ink but alive, a circular design with sharp lines that pulsed with strange energy. Daniel leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "What is that?" Her breath shook. "A chain. A brand. It tracks me, tells them where I am. I tried to break it, I tried to cut it, but it grows back." Daniel felt a cold chill. "So they can follow you anywhere?" Lyra nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Yes, even here they will come, and if they take me, I will not see light again." Daniel's mind raced. He wanted to believe this was just her fear, maybe her imagination, but deep down he knew she was telling the truth. The mark glowed like technology beyond human science. He rubbed his face. "Then we need to find a way to stop it." Lyra's eyes widened. "You would help me? Even when it puts you in danger?" Daniel met her gaze. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. "I already invited you in. I'm not sending you back to them." For the first time, her lips curved into something real. A fragile smile. It was not joy, but relief. The smallest drop of hope after endless fear, she whispered. "You are different?" Daniel shrugged, trying to hide the heaviness in his chest. "Maybe I'm just too stubborn." Suddenly, the lamp flickered. The room dimmed for a second. Lyra froze. Her eyes darted to the window. "They are close," she whispered. Daniel stood at once, his muscles tense. He went to the window and peeked through the blinds. The street looked empty, shadows stretching under the pale moonlight. But then he saw it. Two figures standing far down the block, unmoving, their faces hidden. His stomach dropped. He turned back to her. "They found you." Lyra shook her head fast. Her voice sharp. No, not yet. They are testing, waiting for signal. If the mark shines bright, they come. If it is dim, they wait. Daniel glanced at the glowing circle on her wrist. Still pulsing faintly, he felt anger, frustration, and fear all at once. Then we'll keep it dim. Somehow, Lyra looked at him with disbelief. Why would you risk this for me? You owe me nothing. Daniel sighed, his jaw tight. Because I can't stand by and watch someone treated like this. Not when you're right here begging for help. She stared at him as if memorizing his words, as if storing them deep inside. Slowly she lowered her head, whispering, You will regret this, Daniel. They will not stop. He sat back down, his voice steady. Then neither will I. For a long time they sat in silence, the night pressing heavy around them. Daniel knew he was caught in something he didn't understand, hunted by enemies he couldn't even name. But when he looked at Lyra, fragile and strong at the same time, he knew he would not abandon her outside. The figures down the block vanished into the shadows. The danger was not gone, just hidden, waiting. And inside, under the weak glow of a flickering lamp, a human and an alien shared a moment that would change both their lives. Midnight had revealed her secret, but the night was only just beginning. The night grew heavier around the small apartment. Clouds covered the moon, leaving the street in half shadow. Daniel sat near the window, his eyes scanning the street again and again. He had seen two men earlier, and now he saw nothing. That silence was worse than the sight of them. Behind him, Lyra sat quietly on the edge of the couch, her violet eyes never leaving the door. Her wrist still glowed faintly under the fabric of her sleeve. She pressed it tight as if trying to silence the mark. Daniel's voice was low, almost a whisper. They know you're here, don't they? Lyra nodded once. Yes, they are hunters, they smell fear. They wait until the city sleeps, then they strike. Daniel's chest tightened. He was no soldier, no fighter. Just a tired man with bills to pay, and yet now, somehow, his apartment had become a hiding place in a silent war. The clock ticked past 1 in the morning. Then the noise came, a faint scrape outside, like boots dragging across pavement. Daniel froze. He motioned for Lyra to stay still. He moved toward the door, every step slow. The sound grew clearer. 2 sets of footsteps pacing. Then a soft metallic click like a weapon being checked. Daniel's palms grew sweaty. He pressed his ear against the wooden door. Voices whispered on the other side. Too faint to catch, but the tone was sharp, cold. Lyra's breathing quickened, her body trembled. It is them, she whispered. They never stop. Daniel looked back at her. His stomach turned. He had invited her here, and now danger stood outside his door. He could tell her to run, to leave, but her desperate eyes held him still. A sudden knock rattled the door, loud, hard, demanding, Open! A voice barked deep and rough, Open now! Daniel's heart slammed in his chest. He stayed silent. His fingers tightened on the handle, but he did not turn it. The voice came again, sharper this time. We know she is inside, human. Do not make us break your walls. Lyra's face went pale. She shook her head quickly, whispering, Don't answer. Please don't, Daniel nodded. He backed away slowly, pulling her with him. He pointed toward the kitchen door that led to the old fire escape. We need to move, he whispered. Before they could step, the knock turned violent. The whole door shook under heavy blows. Dust fell from the frame. The hunters were not patient anymore. Lyra grabbed Daniel's arm, her voice panicked. They will break in, they will take me, you must let me go. Daniel shook his head firmly. Not happening. He led her quickly into the kitchen. The fire escape door was stiff, rust clinging to the handle. Daniel shoved it open with all his strength. The hinges screamed loudly. The night air rushed in, cold and sharp. They stepped onto the iron steps. Below them, the alley was narrow, full of trash cans and shadows. Above them, the sky was black. Behind, the front door cracked. A sharp sound echoed through the apartment. The hunters had begun forcing it open. Go, Daniel urged, pulling Lyra down the steps. She moved quickly, but fear made her stumble. He caught her, holding her steady. Then the voice roared from inside the apartment. You cannot hide her, human. The words carried a strange power. Not just a threat, but a promise. Daniel's blood chilled. He pushed Lyra forward, his own legs burning as they raced down the steps. At the bottom of the alley, shadows shifted. 2 tall figures stepped forward, their coats fluttered, and in their hands gleamed strange weapons that hissed with blue light. Lyra gasped, clutching Daniel's arm. They blocked the way. Daniel's eyes darted around. The alley walls were too high, escape impossible. Only a small side tunnel led deeper into the dark. This way, he hissed, pulling her toward it. The hunters moved fast, their eyes glowed faintly red under the shadow of their hoods. Their steps were silent, too silent for men. Daniel and Lyra dashed into the side tunnel. The ground was wet, the air heavy with mold. Their footsteps echoed, the hunters followed, weapons humming. Daniel's lungs burned, his mind screamed for answers. Why are they so desperate for you? He shouted between breaths, Lyra's face twisted with fear. Because I carry what they lost, something they want back if they get me. They will use it to destroy again. Daniel wanted to ask more, but there was no time. A beam of blue light shot past his head, striking the wall. The stone hissed and melted where it hit. They're shooting at us, Daniel shouted. Lyra grabbed his hand tighter, pulling him faster. Her eyes glowed brighter in the darkness. We must keep running, Daniel, if they catch me. They will not just kill me, they will kill you too. Daniel clenched his teeth. His legs screamed, but he kept going. For some reason, he could not let go of her hand. The tunnel twisted, then opened into an old underground chamber. It was wide and full of broken pipes, dripping water, and long shadows. Daniel stopped to catch his breath. Pressing his hand against the wall, Lyra stood close, her chest rising and falling fast. Her violet eyes scanned the darkness. They will not stop. They never stop. They are made to hunt. Until their target is caught, Daniel's heart pounded. He had never felt so small against something so powerful. But when he looked at her, tired, afraid, yet still standing, he felt something stronger rise in him. He straightened, his voice steady despite the fear. Then we'll make them stop. From behind, footsteps echoed, slow and steady. The hunters entered the chamber, their glowing weapons raised, their red eyes fixed on Lyra. Daniel stepped in front of her, his fists clenched, his voice hard. You want her? You go through me. The hunters tilted their heads, their voices low and cruel. Then you will die first. The chamber filled with silence, broken only by the drip of water and the hum of alien weapons. The hunters had found them. The night was no longer safe, and the real fight was about to begin. The underground chamber was silent except for the drip of water and the faint hum of alien weapons. Daniel stood in front of Lyra, his fists clenched, his heart racing. He knew he could not fight men with glowing guns, but still he refused to step aside. The hunters moved slowly, their red eyes glowing in the dark. One of them raised his weapon and pointed it directly at Daniel's chest. The other spoke in a voice low and metallic. Move, human, she does not belong to you. She is property of the masters. Lyra's hand tightened on Daniel's arm. She whispered, trembling, Please don't fight them. They will kill you, but Daniel shook his head slightly, keeping his eyes locked on the hunters. No one owns her? Not while I'm standing here. The hunters tilted their heads, as if confused by his defiance. Then one of them lowered his weapon slightly. You risk your life for this creature, why? Daniel's jaw tightened. He had no clear answer, only a feeling burning inside him. Because she deserves to live free, same as anyone. The hunters gave no reply. They stepped closer. The glow of their weapons lit up the chamber walls. Daniel's body tensed. He had nothing but courage to shield him. Then, before the first shot could fire, the mark on Lyra's wrist pulsed brightly. The hunters froze, their eyes flickered. As if waiting for a command, Lyra gasped, covering the mark quickly. No, she whispered. They're calling the signal. They're telling the masters where I am. Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her away. We have to move. They ran deeper into the tunnels, the hunters following close behind. Shots of blue light hissed past them, melting stone and pipe. Daniel's lungs burned, his legs ached, but he kept running. Finally, they found a narrow crack in the wall, just big enough to squeeze through. Daniel shoved Lyra inside first, then pushed himself in. The hunters' weapons could not fit. They fired, but the wall shielded them. Daniel and Lyra stumbled into another tunnel. Darker and colder than before, they stopped, panting, trying to catch their breath. Lyra leaned against the wall, her body trembling, her violet eyes dim with exhaustion. You should have left me, she whispered. Now they will hunt you too. You will never be safe again. Daniel shook his head. I told you I'm not leaving you. But you need to tell me the truth. What are they after? Why do they want you so badly? Her eyes closed for a moment like she feared saying the words. Then she lifted her wrist, showing the glowing mark again. This is not just a brand. It is a key. Daniel frowned. A key? To what? Her voice cracked as she spoke. to a weapon. The Masters built something long ago, something powerful enough to break worlds. But it needs this mark, only I can open it. That is why they keep me alive, that is why they hunt me. They lost me once. They will not stop until I am theirs again. Daniel's stomach twisted. He felt the weight of her words sink deep. So if they catch you, they will use me to destroy, she finished, her voice shaking. And nothing will stand in their way. The silence after her words was heavy. Daniel's hands trembled slightly. He was just a man, dragged into something far beyond his life. But when he looked at her face, so tired, so broken, he knew he could not walk away. He spoke firmly. Then we don't let them take you. Whatever it takes, Lyra stared at him in shock. You would stand against them, against the Master's hunters, for me? Daniel met her gaze, his voice steady. I don't care who they are. If saving you means standing in their way, then yes, I will. Her eyes filled with tears. But this time they did not fall from fear. They fell because she could not believe his words. You are foolish, she whispered, but you are kind. They moved further through the tunnels. Searching for a way out, every sound echoed too loud. Every shadow felt like an enemy waiting. Daniel kept her close, one hand gripping a rusty pipe as a weapon. At last they reached an old exit gate that led up into the city's abandoned railway yard. The air smelled of rust and oil. The sky above was beginning to pale with the first touch of dawn. Daniel helped Lyra climb out. His body ached, but he pushed her up first. Then he pulled himself after her. For a moment they stood under the open sky, breathing heavy but free. Lyra lifted her face toward the faint light. Her lips curved in the smallest smile. I thought I would never see another sunrise, she whispered. Daniel looked at her, the glow of her eyes softer in the morning light. And for a brief second it felt like peace. But then a voice echoed across the railway yard. Cold and sharp. There they are. Daniel spun around. His chest tightened. On the far side of the track stood the hunters, their weapons glowing again. Lyra gripped his hand tightly. Her voice trembled. They will never stop. Daniel squeezed her hand back. Then neither will I. The trust between them had been tested, and now it would be tested again. In the fire of the hunt, the rising sun lit the scene, but the shadows of danger stretched longer than ever before. The morning sun broke through the clouds, spilling light across the empty railway yard. Daniel and Lyra stood side by side, their chests rising and falling with heavy breaths. Across the tracks the hunters advanced, their glowing weapons humming with deadly energy. Daniel knew they couldn't fight them. Not like this. He had no armor, no gun, nothing but his will. Yet turning back was no longer an option. He gripped the rusty pipe in his hand tighter. Though it felt useless against such power, Lyra's violet eyes darted around quickly, searching the yard. She spotted an old rail tunnel half collapsed at the far end. Her voice urgent, Daniel, there, that way. He followed her gaze and nodded. Then we run. The hunters raised their weapons. A blue beam shot across the yard, striking the ground near their feet. The concrete sizzled and cracked. Lyra flinched, but Daniel pulled her forward. Go. They sprinted, their feet pounding against gravel. Another shot hissed past Daniel's shoulder. He ducked, pulling Lyra down behind an overturned cart. His heart pounded like a drum. The hunters' voices echoed, sharp and cold. You cannot run forever. Surrender her and live. Daniel wiped the sweat from his forehead. His voice was low but firm. They want you alive, Lyra, not me. That means I can buy us time. She shook her head fast, clutching his arm. No! If you stay, they will kill you. You don't understand, Daniel. I can't do this alone. For a second, Daniel hesitated. Then he nodded. Then we don't split. We stick together. He peeked out from behind the cart. The hunters moved closer. Their steps slow, confident. Daniel's mind raced. They couldn't win a fight. They had to escape. Tell me, he whispered quickly. Can that mark of yours do anything else? Can you control it? Lyra looked down at her glowing wrist, her voice uncertain. It is a key. It answers to machines, but not to me. I don't know how to use it. Daniel clenched his jaw. Then we figure it out right now. The hunters fired again. The shot tore through the side of the cart, sparks flying. Daniel pulled Lyra to her feet and they ran again, this time straight toward the collapsed tunnel. As they neared, Daniel saw the entrance blocked by rusted gates. Too heavy to move by hand, his stomach sank. But then he looked at Lyra's wrist. Glowing faintly, try it, he urged. Touch the gate. See if it reacts. Lyra's eyes widened with fear. I don't know if... Just try, Daniel shouted as another beam struck the ground beside them. She pressed her glowing wrist against the metal. For a moment nothing happened. Then suddenly the gate shuddered. Old gears inside groaned to life. The lock clanked and snapped open. The gate slid apart slowly. Daniel's eyes widened. It worked. They pushed inside, ducking under loose stones and broken beams. The tunnel was dark and damp, but it gave them cover. The hunters shouted behind them, quickening their steps. The gate began to slide closed again on its own. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her deeper into the tunnel. The heavy doors clanged shut just as the hunters reached it. Their weapons hissed against the metal but could not break through immediately. Daniel and Lyra kept running. Deeper into the darkness, the air was thick, the smell of rust and dust filling their lungs. Finally, they slowed, their bodies exhausted. Daniel leaned against the wall, panting. That was close. Lyra held her glowing wrist, staring at it with wide eyes. I didn't know it could do that. Daniel gave her a small smile, despite the fear. Looks like your key just bought us time. She lowered her head, her voice trembling. But time is all it gives, Daniel. They will find another way in. They always do. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Steady. Then we use that time to plan. We can't just keep running blind. We need a real escape. Lyra looked at him, her eyes shimmering with both fear and hope. You would plan this with me? You would risk everything? Daniel nodded without hesitation. I already did the moment I stopped for you. Now we see this through. They moved deeper until the tunnel opened into an old underground station. Abandoned for years, it was full of broken trains, shattered glass and rusted tracks. Sunlight spilled weakly through cracks above. Daniel walked among the shadows, thinking, if they're tracking you through that mark, we need to block the signal somehow. Lyra frowned. How? He looked at the broken trains, wires, and old panels scattered across the ground. Maybe. We can overload it or hide it. These machines may be old, but they still have power left. Lyra touched her wrist again, fear on her face. If we overload it, it could kill me. Daniel paused, then met her gaze. If we do nothing, they will kill you. At least this gives us a chance. She swallowed hard, then nodded slowly. Then we try together. Daniel searched through the wreckage, pulling wires, connecting pieces. His hands worked fast, though he was no engineer. He had grown up fixing scraps, repairing things that were broken. Now he prayed those small skills would save them. Lyra watched him, her voice soft. You are different from them. You fight without chains. You fight for someone not your own. Daniel didn't look up, but his words were steady. Maybe that's what being human means, finally. He connected the wires to a glowing panel. Place your wrist here, he told her. She hesitated, then pressed her wrist against the panel. The glow flared bright, her body trembled. Sparks flew as the machines whined back to life. Daniel held her steady. Hold on. Just a little more, the mark pulsed wildly, then dimmed, flickering like a dying light. Lyra gasped, nearly collapsing. Daniel caught her, lowering her gently to the ground. Her eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. She looked at her wrist, still marked, but the glow faint, barely visible. Daniel exhaled with relief. It worked, at least for now. Lyra's lips trembled into the faintest smile. For now, she whispered, we are hidden. But as Daniel looked up at the cracked ceiling, he knew the hunters would not stop. The escape plan had bought them only a little time, and when the metal clang of distant footsteps echoed faintly down the tunnel, Daniel realized their fight was far from over. The underground station was silent except for the faint hiss of broken pipes. Daniel sat beside Lyra, her head resting weakly against his shoulder. Her wrist mark had dimmed after their desperate attempt to overload it, but he knew the hunters would not give up so easily. Lyra's eyes fluttered open. Tired but steady, she whispered, for the first time, I feel less like a prisoner, thank you, Daniel. Daniel gave a small smile, though his own chest felt heavy. Don't thank me yet. They're still coming, and he was right. The silence did not last long. Distant footsteps echoed through the tunnels. Slow but certain, the hunters were searching. Closer with each second, Daniel stood gripping the rusty pipe he had been carrying since the chase began. It was a poor weapon against alien guns, but it was all he had. His jaw tightened. He could run again, keep hiding, but he knew it wouldn't last. Lyra pushed herself up, leaning on the wall for strength. You should leave me, Daniel, if they take me. Maybe they will spare you. Daniel turned sharply. Don't say that. You think I've done all this just to abandon you now? Her violet eyes shimmered in the dim light. I don't want you to die for me. You are only human. They are machines built for the hunt. Daniel stepped closer, his voice firm. I'm human, yes, but that means I choose. And I choose not to leave you. For a moment, Lyra just stared at him, her lips parting as if she could not understand his defiance. No one had ever chosen her over their own safety before. The footsteps grew louder. The hunters' red eyes glowed faintly as they appeared at the far end of the station. Their weapons raised, their voices cold. Surrender the key. Daniel placed himself in front of Lyra again. His pipe raised, though his hands shook. You'll have to go through me. The hunters tilted their heads. Amused by his bravery, foolish human, one said. Your life means nothing, step aside. And you may yet live. But Daniel didn't move. His voice was steady. Maybe my life means nothing to you, but to her it does. And that's enough for me. The hunters lifted their weapons. The blue glow brightened, ready to fire. Daniel's chest tightened. He knew he might die here, but he refused to step back. Lyra's voice suddenly rang out, desperate. Wait! She stepped forward, her glowing wrist raised. If you want me so badly, then take me. Daniel turned, shock in his voice. Lyra, no! Her eyes locked on his, shimmering with emotion. If I go, maybe you will live. That is enough for me. Daniel's heart twisted. He saw her trembling, saw the tears forming in her eyes. She was willing to sacrifice herself to save him, but he could not accept it. He shook his head, his voice rough. No, you don't get to decide that. Not anymore, you're not their property. You're not their prisoner, and you're not leaving with them. Before Lyra could answer, Daniel charged forward, pipe raised, the hunters fired. Blue beams sliced through the air. Daniel dodged one narrowly, the heat searing his arm. He swung the pipe with all his strength, striking the weapon of the nearest hunter. Sparks flew, the weapon clattered to the ground. The second hunter aimed at him, but before he could fire, Lyra pressed her glowing wrist against the broken train panel Daniel had rewired earlier. The panel flared, sparks exploding. The signal from her wrist surged through the old machines. The whole station shook with sudden energy. The hunters froze, their red eyes flickering. Their voices distorted. Signal! Overload! The ground trembled as the machines around them whined. Overhead lights flickered violently. Daniel grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her back. What did you do? Her voice shook. I gave them too much signal. I turned the mark against them. It will burn them out. The hunters staggered, their bodies twitching, their weapons dimming. One fell to its knees, sparks bursting from its chest. The other tried to aim, but its arm locked stiff before collapsing with a crash. The station fell silent again, smoke rising from the ruined hunters. Daniel stared, stunned, his chest heaving. You did it. Lyra collapsed into his arms, weak but alive. No, she whispered softly. We did it. Daniel held her close. His heart still pounding, he looked down at her dim wrist mark. No longer glowing dangerously. For the first time, it looked powerless. She whispered again, her voice almost too soft to hear. I waited all day beneath that sign. I thought no one would ever come, but you? You stopped, and that saved me. Daniel swallowed hard, emotion tightening his throat. I didn't save you, Lyra. You saved yourself. I just stood with you. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, her eyes closing. Then stand with me a little longer. Until I can stand alone, Daniel nodded, holding her steady. As long as it takes. The sun above the broken station cracked through the roof, spilling golden light across them. For the first time since this began, Daniel felt hope. The hunters were gone. The masters had lost their prize. But the war was not over, it was only the beginning. And Daniel knew one thing with certainty. He had made his choice, a choice no one else had dared to make. He had chosen to protect her, not because she was human, not because she was alien, but because she was someone who deserved to be free. That was the human choice, the only one that mattered.